Yeah, first of all, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's really a pleasure for me to participate at the Czech meetup online today. And hopefully my presentation will be useful for everyone, for those who are using maybe older versions of Zabbix and maybe newer versions of Zabbix as well. So, first of all, I would like to remind you that what we are doing basically, we're developing a free and open source monitoring solution which is called Zabbix, and we are trying to make Zabbix as universal as possible, so it can be used for many different purposes for monitoring of IT environments, IT infrastructure, I don't know, environmental monitoring, maybe IoT, monitoring of IoT devices, and much, much more. But today, I would like to give you just a quick overview of the functionality we have introduced in the last few years. And I would like to start with just a quick recap of the major pieces of functionality that you may find useful in Zabbix 4.2 and 4.4. So in 4.2, which was released last year, at the beginning of last year, we have introduced a high-frequency monitoring with support of throttling. It really allows us to make a very high-frequency monitoring, makes a very huge number of data requests without putting too much stress on Zabbix infrastructure. Also, we have introduced support of HTTP agent, so it helps to connect to different data points using HTTP protocol, different APIs, and collect data natively from those data points. We have also invested a lot in making preprocessing much, much more flexible with support of data validation and support of JavaScript. And actually, using JavaScript, we may basically do any data transformation right now. Absolutely anything. It's all possible. Preprocessing for proxies. It is really helpful for those who want to scale Zabbix and use many proxies so that the load is basically evenly reduced between a different proxy. And tag management. So tags, they're getting increasingly important in Zabbix. And 4.4, that was released in September last year, and it introduced a new Zabbix agent. I will talk about Zabbix agent a little bit later today. It also introduced support of webhooks for alerting and notifications. And I know that Tomasz will talk today about a practical example of integration of Zabbix with some other tools like Jira. Support of timescale.db. I'll also talk about timescale.db a little bit more. And a knowledge base, so item description, metric description, and trigger descriptions now are much, much more visible in the Zabbix front end. And we finally introduced a standard for Zabbix templates. We documented the best practices how to create high-quality templates in Zabbix. But now, I would like to cover functionality of Zabbix 5.0 first, and then maybe at the end of my talk, I will also give you some information about what is expected in 5.2. Okay, but let's start with the 5.0 first. 5.0 is quite important release because it's LTS. So LTS stands for long-term support, and it means that this version of Zabbix is supported for 5 years. And our vision is to make Zabbix ready for monitoring out of the box. Yeah, so you install Zabbix, and you should have all necessary tools and templates and integrations to monitor your devices, you monitor your services and applications from one hand, and also to integrate Zabbix with different alerting systems, ITSM systems, and notification systems from the other hand. Yeah, and that's why we pay so much attention to the data collection part of Zabbix, and also to notification alerting part of Zabbix. So support of webhooks allowed us out of the box integration with the numerous ticketing and ITSM systems. There are just a few examples like Jira, Redmine, OTRS, Zendesk, ServiceNow, Zemat, and there are much more. Alerting as well. So Zabbix, if you install Zabbix, it supports out-of-the-box integration with many different alerting systems like Microsoft Teams, different services like VictorOps, PagerDuty, OpsGenie, and well, Discord, Slack, Pushover, and so on and so forth. So it all comes out of the box thanks to support of webhooks, which we introduced in Zabbix 4.2, I think. Yeah. What else? Templates and plugins. Zabbix, with every new release of Zabbix, we support more and more official templates, which are officially supported and maintained by Zabbix team to monitor even growing set of applications and different services. And here you can see just a few examples. What else? Also, now it is much easier to contribute. So finally, we came up with a very simple kind of procedure, 3-step procedure, or how you may contribute to Zabbix. So if you wrote a plugin for Zabbix agent or you created a new template, you want to make this part of Zabbix software, you just follow 3 easy steps, which are actually all described on Zabbix homepage. You go to zabbix.com/developers and you can see how you can contribute to Zabbix. It's really easy right now. So Zabbix 5.0, it came with official support of Zabbix Agent 2. This is our new agent for Linux and Windows platforms. I believe these are 2 most important platforms on the market right now. And I also believe that new Zabbix agent is one of the most advanced and sophisticated monitoring agents on the market. It supports plugin infrastructure, supports of push and pull data collections. It's all made in parallel. It does support persistent connections for example, for very efficient monitoring of databases. It also supports trapping. It supports subscribing to different events. If, for example, you want to subscribe to MQTT events and so on and so forth. So I believe that the new agent is really important for Zabbix, and it really gives us tons of flexibility. And thanks to support of plugins, it also is also easily extendable. Zabbix 5.0 introduced support of persistent storage for Zabbix agent. It basically means that if you have no connection between Zabbix agent and Zabbix server, Zabbix agent will be able to keep data locally, basically in a local file system, not only in memory, as it was supported before, but it can also store collected data in the local file system. Yeah. So, and then when communication is back, it just sends data to Zabbix server or to Zabbix proxy. And of course, it's very useful if you have cases with unstable communications. You want to be 100% sure that your critical data is not lost and it's getting delivered to Zabbix server for processing. What else? During the last few years, we have invested also quite a lot of our effort to make Zabbix as secure as possible. Just one example, in Zabbix 5.0, we have introduced support of secret macros for keeping secrets, in a secure way. So passwords, all sensitive information like passwords, tokens, IDs, it becomes kind of read-only. So you write your value, okay, kind of secret text of password, and it cannot be retrieved anymore. It will not be visible to end users. It cannot be used for alerting messages, for example. So there is no read access to the values. Yeah, so this is really, really important. So this feature is called basically secret text for secret macros. Yeah. What else? If you have a look at Zabbix, we can see that all communications are secured by either TLS or HTTPS or PSK, pre-shared key for Zabbix agent, Zabbix server communication. We also introduced support of proxies for webhooks. Yeah, so Zabbix server can go through proxy first in order to communicate, for example, with Cloud Jira or some other products. We have also introduced encrypted connections to the databases, to MySQL, Postgres databases. The connection can be encrypted right now. And also we have introduced support of whitelist and blacklist for agent checks. Yeah. So for example, if you want Zabbix agent to be able to retrieve data from MySQL only, from MySQL specific checks only, you can set up Zabbix agent so that it will process MySQL specific checks only and nothing else. Okay, basically you define a whitelist. And if you want to restrict Zabbix agent from running specific checks, you may use also blacklist as well. So this also is a functionality which was introduced in Zabbix 5.0. 5.0 also came with the support of SAML authentication. This is actually a functionality you can find in enterprise products. And for example, if you use some other products, this SAML authentication is a kind of a paid functionality, but not in Zabbix. So Zabbix is a free and open source. So Zabbix Zabbix functionality is basically all free and open source, including SAML. So SAML authentication is normally used for single sign-on, and it allows Zabbix to be integrated with the different identity provider solutions, like Microsoft Active Directory Federation services, different cloud-based solutions from Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud Platform, OpenAM, SecureAuth, Okta, and so on and so forth. So single sign-on is always important, especially for the enterprise use. What else? There are a number of usability improvements in 5.0 as well. One is that we have now a little bit different layout for Zabbix pages. For Zabbix web UI, we have actually moved the top-level menu to the left side. So this way, we actually have more valuable free space at the center, at the top of the screen, which I like very much. And if you already start using this left side menu, just be aware that there are 3 different modes. One is that the menu can be displayed in full. Another, you can hide this menu, so it will appear on mouse over. And another mode, which I prefer personally, is some sort of minimized menu, so that the menu will be minimized and only small icons would be displayed. So I like this very, very much. What else? Zabbix 5.0 also comes with the support of UI models. So this way, you may extend Zabbix using your own modules written in a PHP language with some help of JavaScript, so that you can create your own pages, or you can add a new functionality to existing pages. You may also create a new menu entries, replace menu entries, and do many, many other things. And UI models also respect the permission control, which we already have in Zabbix. Zabbix 5.0 comes also with a new page. I think this page is quite important. It gives us a list of all monitored devices. It's available under monitoring hosts. If you go there, you can see a list of all devices you have, like in my case, different devices, so that you can see some availability information, information about IP addresses, port numbers, information about how many problems this specific device has, and also quick access to device-specific data, like latest data, the problem-related information, graphs, screens, and web monitoring. So some people who migrated to Zabbix 5.0 are asking, I cannot find monitoring web and monitoring graphs anymore. Yeah, exactly. So we simplified Zabbix menu a little bit. Now, the all navigation goes through monitoring host. So basically, you go to monitoring host, you select host you want to see information for, and then you click on, say, graphs, or I don't know, so to web monitoring. Another very nice usability improvements, and it really makes monitoring and alerting much more simple, is support of message templates for media types. So now, when you define a media type like email or integration with a Slack or Telegram or PagerDuty, whatever, now you may define message templates on a media type level. So different types of messages would have a different templates. For example, for problem recovery, I may have a subject defined like this, resolved in number of seconds, and the message itself in an HTML format. For other messages, I may have a different message template. And it gives a very good advantage that if before Zabbix 5.0 we had to define those subject and messages for each action we execute, now it's all done on a message on a media type level, so we don't have to deal with the message subjects and message and kind of the body of the message for each individual action. What else? Since JavaScript becomes increasingly important in Zabbix, we may use JavaScript for webhooks. We can use JavaScript also for some complex preprocessing transformation rules. We decided to simplify the way how users may work in a test JavaScript. So we have introduced command line tool, which is called Zabbix.js, in order to work with JavaScript. Yeah, and the typical use cases is basically to test if my JavaScript works or not. So that's why we have Zabbix_JS. And if you execute Zabbix_JS, this is a very small binary, --help. You could see all command line options. So it's very, very simple and easy to use, so that you may test your JavaScript not only from Zabbix front end, but also from command line, as many Unix admins prefer to do. Starting from Zabbix 5.0, triggers support text operations with the text data. So not only with numeric data as we supported before, but also with the text data. And this way, we may compare the metric data and use it to monitor, for example, the versions of a different software or services. We can do much more advanced log file monitoring. We may compare string or text values coming from a different metrics, and so on and so forth. Yeah, just to give you a few examples. So if you want to verify that all Zabbix components are running 5.0, we may use a trigger similar to this one, Zabbix version last. The last value is equal to 5.0. Or we may use also user macro, as you can see, Zabbix version. What else? We may also compare last value with the previous one for text data. Might be very important if you want to discover that the value is different now. So, for example, the version of the software is different. Or we may compare values of different items. For example, we can verify that the version of Zabbix proxy matches the version of Zabbix server. We can use the trigger similar to this one. What else? Also, we're trying to make Zabbix UI and especially the life of Zabbix administrators and super administrators much easier, giving them some nice features, like, for example, the ability to test items from UI. This way, even if you create a new item in Zabbix or you add a new item to a template, you will still have ability to test item. So what you do, you just press a button test or get value, and Zabbix would connect to a host if the host is already defined, or you may specify some different host name or IP address and port number. Zabbix would connect to this host, or maybe a SNMP device or some other device, retrieve value. It will also execute all preprocessing steps, all preprocessing rules, and will give you a result of the execution of each preprocessing rule, the initial value, result after the first step, another step, and the final result at the end. So as we can see, Zabbix received 1, a result with value map applied up. So basically, instead of Zabbix, we received the value 1. Yeah, and I like this functionality very much because it really helps our integration team and also helps Zabbix administrator and super administrators to verify that the items and metrics they define, they actually work. What else? And of course, don't forget that media types support the testing as well. So if you want to, for example, verify that the integration of Zabbix with some ITSM system like OTRS works fine, you just press a test button, and Zabbix will give you a result information back. Compression for better performance and efficiency. So just recently, I think last year, we have introduced support of timescale database. I think it was introduced in Zabbix 4.2 as experimental support, and 4.4 it was kind of stabilized. And timescale DB is basically a Postgres plus just a normal Postgres plus a small extension, which is called timescale DB. So that's why you are getting, well, timescale DB, and timescale DB is open source software. Timescale DB actually gives you advantage of kind of performance advantage. It gives you ability to partition kind of huge historical tables automatically. And this way, timescale DB also guarantees quite a linear level of performance regardless of your database size. Yeah? So if you have 100 gigabyte database and it grows to, say, I don't know, 500 gigabyte database, the level of performance is staying on approximately the same level. So it's very linear regardless of the database size. So that's very, very nice. And now we have introduced compression for timescale DB historical data. And it basically means that the older data which you keep in the Zabbix database, say months old data and older, and can be compressed, yeah, so that you would save on a disk space on a cost of your storage. And I will give you a quick example. This is just a number from production setup. In 4.x, it was 355 gigabytes uncompressed data. And 5.0, after migration to timescale DB with the compression, the database size is much, much less. I think it's like eight time less than it was before. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Another nice improvement, especially for those who use low-level discovery quite extensively, support of overrides for low-level discovery. What does it mean? It means that now when Zabbix discovers some file systems, for example, or files or some other resources, say network interfaces, it creates kind of identical objects. It creates triggers based on the same trigger prototype. It creates items based on the same item prototypes. But with the support of overrides for low-level discovery rules, we may tell Zabbix that, okay, please discover file systems as you discovered before, but for some file systems, please use a different trigger severity. Like instead of warning, like in my case for Oracle file systems, please use a high trigger severity. So overrides is basically ability to override certain attributes of items and triggers. And another use case, if when we want to discover file systems, but we don't want to discover temporary file systems. In this case, we define that if file system name matches TMP or temp or something like that, we tell Zabbix, okay, please do not discover it, do not create the item. So this is very, very powerful functionality. I really suggest you to have a look at it. Yeah. Now, I would like to tell you a few words about Zabbix 5.2. That's what we are very focused on at the moment. So Zabbix 5.2 is about to be released very soon. It's a standard release with a standard release cycle. And 5.2, it comes with the support of the synthetic monitoring. I think this is a very, very powerful concept, and it gives us ability to create a complex multi-step scripted monitoring scenario. So what does it mean? It basically means that we may use JavaScript in order to define how we want to retrieve data. For example, first we want to connect to one API data point, get some information from that API, then connect to a different API using the information from the first step, and so on and so forth. So basically create a very complex multi-step monitoring scenarios. And it also can be used, and I think this is a very, very powerful concept, for advanced availability checks. If you want to verify that my application or my API actually works. So what I do as a first step, for example, I create some object using my API, and then using the same API, I verify that the object is actually created, like object.create API call, and then object.get API call with some object ID. Yeah. So, and this is really, really, really powerful. And in order to implement this, we have introduced a new item type, which is called script. And if you use item type script, it basically means that you define the way how you want to retrieve data using JavaScript. Yeah. And within this JavaScript, you can have a very complex logic on how you are going to get this data. Okay, so I would like to remind you that this is coming in Zabbix 5.2. Another nice improvement related to security, this is a storage of secret and external vault. So what does it mean? All right, so if you're kind of concerned about security, you would probably want to keep all secret information like passwords, API tokens, maybe some usernames, maybe some secret IP addresses, and so on and so forth, in an external file system outside of Zabbix, so that all secret information is not stored in a Zabbix database, but it is stored somewhere outside of Zabbix and may be managed by some other team of people. So you won't have access to that secret information. So using this functionality, you may keep all sensitive information outside of Zabbix. Basically, now we support the HashiCorp Vault product. So it will be stored in a vault. And therefore, there is no secret information could be stored in Zabbix whatsoever, including database name or database password that we use for connection to the Zabbix database. It also can be stored in the external vault. And it's been implemented as a new type of macro. So we had just a normal macro like text, secret text, which I described before. And now we have a vault secret. So vault secret, it means that this secret, in my case, it's a Confluence DB name and Confluence DB password. So this information will be stored in an external vault. Zabbix Insights, another, I think, very important functionality. It's about ability to generate ability to analyze and generate messages like this one, like average number of transactions increased by 24% in September, comparing to October, or number of new user registrations is down 12% last week, So this way, it's kind of some sort of anomaly detection when we understand that our metric maybe it grows too fast for the quite long period of time, like daily, weekly analysis, or monthly, or early analysis, or maybe it decreases or increases too much, and we introduced it by support of a new set of triggers for which work with trend data for long-term analysis. So this way, we are making Zabbix very, very efficient because trend data is not as big and huge as a normal raw historical data. What else? Granular control of user permission. So I think this is very anticipated feature, which many users want to see in Zabbix. And we finally implemented it in Zabbix 5.2. And the benefits of the fine-grained control is that we may control many new things which were impossible before. For example, we may control what parts of UI are accessible to users. So, for example, if you want to create a customer portal, you may, for this type of users, you may tell Zabbix, please display dashboards only and nothing else. So this type of users, they don't need to see anything else except the dashboard. So now it's absolutely possible. Or if you don't use, for example, functionality of IT services, you may tell Zabbix, okay, please hide this menu section from Zabbix and don't display it for all users, or things like that. Also, it's possible to configure what user operations are available to users. For example, the problem acknowledgement, is it available to user or not? Or map or screen editing. For example, you may give access to Zabbix UI, but you don't want to give access to users to edit maps or create new maps or create a new dashboards or create a new screens. Now you may control, is it available or not? And also, using new functionality, you may basically restrict access to the API, and tell exactly, if you want to allow access to API, you may tell exactly what methods, API methods, are available. So it also gives you kind of extra security on the API level. What else? And IoT monitoring. Starting from Zabbix 5.2, Zabbix will support two important protocols out of the box: the modbus protocol and MQTT protocols, which are quite commonly used for IoT monitoring and for monitoring of industrial equipment. So if you want to have kind of integration and you want to retrieve data from, for example, from your building management system, like the status of a different equipment or information from a different sensors, like electricity sensors or water supply sensors and so on and so forth. So it would be absolutely possible to do it with Zabbix just out of the box. And there are many more functionality which are coming in Zabbix 5.2. You may ask when Zabbix 5.2 will be available. Well, just recently, we have released Zabbix Beta, the second beta. It was released yesterday or day before, so we are very, very close to Zabbix 5.2. And I would expect that Zabbix 5.2 will be ready by the end of October or maybe beginning of the November, the latest. So this year, we are talking about this year, so it's coming very, very soon, maybe in 2 or 3 weeks' time. Well, thank you very much. And I would like to use this opportunity to invite you to Zabbix Summit, which is going to happen very soon, just after a couple of weeks. And it is online event. There will be, thousands of users, many Zabbix community members. The whole Zabbix team will be there. And this event is absolutely free. So please go to zabbix.com/events and welcome to Zabbix Summit. If you're interested, please be with us. So thank you very much, and I will be happy if there are any questions. I don't know if I have much time for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexei, for your presentation. We have one question here from Yuri Martinez. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yes. Hello. When do you plan to implement Kubernetes monitoring template? Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I believe that this functionality will be ready in 5.4. Yeah. We plan to make it ready in 5.2, but we still miss a few features which we need to implement before kind of full featured monitoring of Kubernetes and monitoring of various cloud platforms like AWS, GCP, Azure, and some others. So it is coming, and it's coming very soon. It's one of our top priorities for 5.4.
Thank you. We have no more questions here. So thank you, Alexei, once again. Thank you for joining us. And thank you. There is one question right now. Will it work on OpenShift too?
Well, actually, Zabbix can already be deployed on OpenShift platform. If you go to the OpenShift marketplace, Zabbix is there already. But is it question about the monitoring or deployment? So Zabbix can be deployed there, no problem. But when it comes to monitoring, again, it's part of the work we are doing in 5.4 related to the cloud monitoring, monitored of Kubernetes, and some other dynamic environments.
Okay, thank you. And there is one question. Will in future be new features backported to LTS?
Normally, we don't backport new features, with the exception of maybe some very minor features. Yeah. So if you're looking for bigger features in Zabbix 5.0, I think I have to disappoint you. We don't backport major features into previous releases of Zabbix. So please use a newer major releases of Zabbix.
Okay, thank you. And there is another one about two-factor authentication.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we already support a single sign-on, and we may use different identity providers, and those identity providers we can give you 2FA functionality just out of the box. So I think this is the best way to implement it right now in Zabbix.
Okay, thank you very much. And